Welcome back. How about we talk some Padres, fellas, because we got actual baseball games. This is Derek Togerson's favorite time of year. You were out there in Peoria.
Yes.
It is great to have the sights and sounds back and to see what Craig Stammen's Padres might look like.
Ooh.
And one big difference when the lineup card drops on Friday, Tatis hitting cleanup instead of leadoff, where we saw him pretty much the entirety of last year. And Derek, I feel like it's one of those questions that's always around every year. Where's the optimal place for Fernando Tatis Jr.? You have any feelings going into this year?
I don't know what the big deal is about this. Obviously, he's got massive power potential. You could put guys in front of him. That's great. I think the bigger thing that's not people aren't talking about is Jackson Merrill hitting second.
Yeah.
You got a guy who's going to be in his third year, 22-year-old kid. He's got that left-handed bat. He is not a guy who's typically a high walk, OBP kind of guy. He puts balls in play at a very high rate. So if you get like Xander Bogaerts, he can hit leadoff. If you get that guy on base, Jackson is the guy who's going to be really mixing things up because Mike Trout hits second. Aaron Judge hits second. Like, that's a place where you put one of your best hitters. I kind of like the idea of Jackson Merrill hitting second. That's the guy I'm looking at. Toddy can hit anywhere. He's going to hit the ball at the ballpark. I like Merrill in the two-hole. I think that's going to be a bigger issue, or a bigger
interesting
change.
thing for me for Tatis at cleanup is he hits well historically with men on base. We know that. What's interesting to me is you take him out of that first inning AB, which immediately puts pressure on the opposing hitter, and we know Tatis runs so fluid and puts pressure on other teams when he's on the base path with no one ahead of him. So I like him at the top of the order, but I'm not married to it, and I like what you're saying about Merrill.
Would you flip Machado and Tatis?
No,
that's another thing to look at.
Well, if I'm an opposing pitcher, I don't want to face Merrill, Machado, or Tatis in the first inning. But I understand you got to make a lineup.
You're going to get at least two of them, right?
You got to put players in positions, but.
And also, who is the leadoff guy? Is Xander Bogaerts the leadoff guy? That feels a bit like an experimental move. If that isn't working out, that you can very easily slot Tatis there at the top of the order. We heard from Ruben Niebla. Obviously, that final spot in the rotation is going to be one of the compelling storylines during spring training. Is there one guy in this mix of established veterans that really piques your interest, Eric?
The guy we've talked about on the On Fire podcast many times is Walker Buehler.
Yeah.
We saw him with the Dodgers how many times? Come in here and just shove against the Padres. He had a second Tommy John surgery, had all kinds of trouble coming back from it. He was struggling with Philadelphia. He ends up somewhere else. All of a sudden, his last 7 starts last year, sub-3 ERA. If he's got something and he can work with Ruben to get back to being the Walker Buehler that we used to see, he's only 31 years old. Yeah. He's still very much in his prime. He's been around forever because he got up when he was 21. He started that combined no-hitter against the Padres. That's the guy. If he can recapture that kind of ability, and you get him into October, you've got yourself a heck of a weapon at a very small price.
Well, whether it's Buehler or Marquez or Canning, they're going to need multiple guys. I think hopefully Buehler will emerge, but we know the Padres pitching staff, there's going to be injuries. You need depth. You need as many starters as you can. They got some space early in the season, but as you accumulate games and you get deep into the July and August, you're going to need 6, 7, 8 starters at some point in the season.
Another guy to keep your eye on, German Marquez. For the first time, not pitching at Coors Field, he could be a weapon as well.